version though, if you want.
Yeah, give me that.
So long story short, I have suffered all forms of abuse. And by the time I was 15 years old, I emancipated myself from my family and lived on my own all through high school. Ended up starting a nonprofit in high school called SHRE. And at the time, that stood for Students Helping the Abused React and Empower. And it's now, so it wasn't a nonprofit then, it was more a support group when I started it.
Yeah.
Kids that were going through abuse like me, because I was kind of known in high school as the girl with the special circumstance, you know, because I could check myself in and out of school and people were like, where are your parents? Did they die? Like, why do you live on your own? And so when I would tell people, no, I was abused and I was emancipated, they would start to open up to me about what they were going through. And so that's why I started the support group. It's now a 501c3. It's still called SHARE, but it just stands for Sharing Hope for the Abused Through Resilience and Empowerment. I got to run the Olympic torch in the 2002 Winter Olympics because of it. And I'm just really passionate about helping people realize they're not alone and they can overcome it. I've got a podcast called the Speak Loud Podcast, where I interview people who've been through abuse and have triumphed over it. And my day job is I'm a real estate investor and also a realtor. So I've made all of my money through real estate investing. I became a millionaire at a very young age through my real estate portfolio. And I think that's the quick version. So
nice. No, that's perfect. Wow. Okay. I'm just going to jump right into it because you're amazing. For one, I just commend you. That's so much to go through at such a young age. And even more so, a lot of kids don't always thrive in that environment. So you started the nonprofit. I just want to pick your brain for a second. What kind of turned you to do that? Was it you and a friend? How did that start?
So like I mentioned, it was just a support group, and it was something where, you know, kids that had gone through abuse like I had, or were going through abuse, you know, at their home environment. I went to Kearns High School, and Kearns High School, there was a lot of gang activity and drug activity, and it was really easy to fall to things that were not so good for you, you know, like teenage pregnancy and the drugs and all of that. And so it was really just a way for kids that were, you know, at risk to have a place that they could come to. And all we did was, you know, if we had classes together, we did homework together. If we were just really having a tough time emotionally or mentally, we leaned on each other, we talked to each other. So that's kind of why I call it a support group. That's the best way I can describe it. And there was somebody in the group, so there was just maybe 10 of us. There was somebody in the group that had told somebody at Granger High about the support group, and they wanted to then do it at their school. And so it kind of like just started to snowball. I had no anticipation that something like that was going to happen. And then I was getting asked by like principals and administration to come share, you know, my story of abuse and how to recognize it and how to report it. And I think it was just kind of like getting it out from the shadows, if you will, to talk about what an epidemic it was, but also it's okay to say something. So does that answer your question?
Oh, totally. Sorry, I'm a complicated person. I ask some really weird things.
Good. It's totally cool.
Awesome. Good. Because I sometimes feel like I'm too much for everybody. And but here we are. I just love picking the brains of everybody and you know what they're doing. And that's a lot to go through at that age. So tell me, how old were you when you spoke at your first school? Because
okay.
Actually, let me just ask that. How old were you when you spoke at your first school?
I was probably 16, and I was asked to speak to, I don't know if you remember, we had these, what did they call it? It was like where you had like home ec and like the FCCLA type classes. And
TLC, yeah.
TLC, that's what it was, yeah. So that teacher, I was actually president of the FCCLA club, and she had said, you know what, you need to share your story. So kind of a little background on that is every year FCCLA has like a statewide competition where you can compete in cooking classes, or you can compete in like you can speak on a subject. I don't remember all the, categories, but what I chose to do is to speak on abuse. And it wasn't just my story, it was, I looked up the statistics and I started getting into the history of it and like how long it's been going on. And it was almost like a light bulb went off, if you will, kind of like, okay, this is my purpose. Because when I was 13, I was really suicidal. I was anorexic. I was listening to very dark music. Like I was in a very dark, just a bad place. And so the reason I didn't take my life and the reason I'm able to be on the show right now is I had kind of this little epiphany of, if you take your life, you're letting all these people who've done these things to you win, in a sense. Maybe win's not the right word. But once I started researching for this topic to compete in this FCCLA competition, and I started learning it's 1 in 4 women, 1 in 6 men before the age of 18, the statistics were just staggering to me enough that it made such an impression to me that I needed to share my story, for one. And it was scary. I mean, public speaking is scary, especially 16 years old,
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking over here. Is you're a very brave 16-year-old. And I mean, to go against your family, a lot of people aren't brave enough to do that, even if they have gone through abuse for a lot of years.
Right. Well, I think so. Becoming emancipated at 15, the reason I did that is I felt it was the only option. So I was living with my dad for a little while. I became a latchkey kid. He had 2 jobs, so I was just by myself a lot. That's when I fell into that depression and the suicide and the anorexia and all of that. And I came to that point because my stepfather was sexually abusing me, and my mother had come to find out about it. And he would always threaten me, hey, if you say anything, I'll kill you. So, when you're a little girl, I mean, I was, 13, but still a young girl, and an adult threatens your life, you tend to be quiet, because you're afraid that that's going to actually happen. And so basically, long story short, he gave my mother an ultimatum and said, hey, you choose, it's your daughter or me. And she unfortunately felt that she could live without me, but couldn't live without him. And so she chose him. And I became homeless, essentially. Like I didn't have anywhere to go. So I jumped on the bus and went up to Layton, where my dad lived. I literally had a garbage bag full of things. And I'm sitting in the back of this bus thinking, what's going on here, And so it kind of led me down a path of talking to social workers and seeing, hey, obviously I'm suicidal, I'm anorexic, all these things are going on, not a good position for me to be in.
Yeah.
And so I had to go through a lot of counseling. And so they said, okay, well, we can put you in foster care. I didn't want to be in foster care, growing up, when I was living with my mom, I was getting bounced around a lot because she would break up with one boyfriend and go to another. And I went to 26 different elementary schools growing up. So I always had just a lot of bouncing around.
Yeah.
And that's what happens sometimes with foster care. And I don't say that in a bad way, to be derogatory, but that's just the way it goes.
What happens? Yeah.
So I said, okay, I don't want to go to foster care. And so he said, well, you can try an emancipation. And I had no idea what that was. I didn't even know what the word was, and told me what the process would be. And he said, well, here's the thing. Obviously, the odds are stacked against you because there's only one other case in the state of Utah for a 15-year-old to win an emancipation at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, okay, worst case scenario, the judge is going to say no. And then I'm going to have to go to that foster care option. And so I went for it. And I was lucky enough to be the second case in the state of Utah for a 15-year-old to be a legally emancipated minor. So that's kind of how it led to that. When you talk about being brave to stand up against my family, it was more of survival for me, I feel like, than it was bravery. I felt like it was really the only option.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like I should have started there too. Cause that's hard. I mean, let's be honest, you're facing abandonment. Yeah. And I'm sorry to have you relive this. This is, someone told me a quote the other day, your mess is your message.
Yes.
And if I feel like if I would have had social media and actually, that's a broad topic. A lot of teenagers are having a hard time with social media, but I was really alone, at that age, and that's really hard to go through. So I'm happy to hear that you found that support in your school. Not everybody does, and we need more people, more 16-year-olds in those situations to stand up and talk about it, because sometimes girls are still being sexually abused and they're sitting in that auditorium and they're looking at you and they're like, gosh dang it, I need to say something. I need to do something. So I commend you for standing up and doing that and getting all teary-eyed. You're amazing.
Thank you so much. One thing about it, you mentioned, apologizing for bringing it up and making me talk about it. Here's the thing that I've learned in my life. I'm 38 years old now, and I have shared this story so many times. That's why I can just so quickly, recount the details. And you're actually doing me a great service today, because the more I share my story, the more it helps me heal. And every time I share it, the more and more I heal from it. And so thank you for allowing me to be a part of this and share it.
Oh, that's what I'm here for. Vulnerably on camera. Well, again, thanks for being here. This is things that we need to talk about, because again, like I said, there are those girls in the auditorium and looking up, and it specifically our show, sometimes we curse a little bit. We talk about hard topics. We are a mom focused show. And so listeners, this is for you guys. If you've gone through something, healing is the best thing for you to do. And I actually know a few people in my life that, need to probably tell their story more, if not at least to someone professionally qualified to handle all of that information. But no matter what, I feel like you hit it right on the nail with the statement that every time you talk about it, you kind of heal it. And especially, and for some people that doesn't work all the time, maybe they don't want to keep reliving it or whatnot. But if you've never talked about it, if you've never addressed it, I feel like you're going to run into some conflicts.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, let's pick your brain a little bit more. So 16, you started speaking, and then the nonprofit. When exactly did that? Like, what are you guys? Give me a little bit of details on that.
Sure. So like I mentioned, it started out as a support group called SHRE, so SHRE. And at the time, the acronym stood for Students Helping the Abused React and Empower. So the whole mission, of course, was to help us react in a positive way, to learn to be resilient, and then empower others through our own example, I guess you could say. And that stood while I was going to Kearns High School. I had the ability to, actually, I was asked to run the Olympic torch in the 2002 Winter Olympics because of the impact it had made. I ran right there in front of the Olympic speed skating oval where Kearns High is. And after that, there was no other thing I did necessarily. I didn't go try to expand it, other than I was giving a lot of talks in elementary schools and high schools and junior highs and to administration. And I know that I'm really passionate about abuse. And so I said, okay, how do I take this to a more global capacity rather than just here in Kearns or Salt Lake City or, even statewide? And I started to interview people that had 501c3s, nonprofits, and said, okay, how did you start? And I found out it was a long list of things you've got to do, and it's a lot of money. And so I started approaching attorneys like, hey, can you help me get my bylaws written so I can get this submitted and all these things. And I was running into a lot of hurdles, quite honestly. But I pushed through them because, again, I knew this was my mission, and it was the reason I'm put on this planet. I'm a believer. We're not going to get into religious things, but into a higher power. And so I really do feel that that's the reason I was put here on this planet and went through the things that I've gone through. And so I just kept going. I submitted my application. It sat on somebody's desk for probably 2 years. I heard nothing. And I started to get discouraged. And so I typed up a letter to the Congress, and I was like, hey, I'm trying to be a legit 501c3 here. I've heard nothing for 2 years. Like, you can't be that backlogged. What's going on? And lo and behold, shortly after that, my approval came through. And then I became a 501c3. So I think I was just sitting amongst some papers. I don't know how it works, but once I became legit, that was 2010. So we're talking 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it's still going strong today. We do a youth empowerment day every single year. We weren't able to do it this year due to coronavirus, but, you know, I am very passionate specifically about helping kids, you know, with, let's say, between 8 years old and 18 years old, because those are some very formative years. Yeah. And one thing I'm really getting into now, so my brothers, I have 2 brothers and a sister, and my sister was in foster care up in Heber. I didn't know her for a long time because I'm much older than my siblings, and found out she was in foster care, did some digging, and I actually took her out of foster care and raised her as my own. And so I realized with the foster care program, it's great, but once you age out, you age out. It's not like they say, okay, here's what you need to do in real life. You know, if you want to buy a house, or you want to have a checking account, or you want to have credit, or, you know, any of those things that involve being an adult, they don't necessarily give those to you. And so I thought, okay, here's another part of my purpose, is helping, you know, kids that are in the foster care program that maybe haven't had that mom and dad figure to teach them financial responsibility and literacy. You know, that's where I can step in, because I've been able to kind of do that on my own and been pretty successful financially. So that's kind of the next phase, if you will, of SHRE right now.
I love that. And to anyone kind of with the, you know, if you're thinking about starting your own nonprofit, or you also kind of have something that aligns with like Tiffany, it's great to hear like anybody's success story. They always tell me, I went to somebody and I asked like what they did, or they have a morning routine. Like there's always very similar things, like no matter what your niche is or your field is or what you're talking about, things that make you more successful. And I actually love, earlier you mentioned that you did real estate. It sounds like you were always very realistic in knowing, you know, the nonprofit was going to take a lot of money to start and get to where you wanted to do. And so I think real estate is a great place to be in, especially when you need to be self-sufficient. And I mean, let's just be honest, stability is everything. As you know, as a child, you're suicidal, and you probably didn't feel safe or stable in that situation. So,
yeah, absolutely. And just so you know, kind of a background on that, I was going to the University of Utah on a full ride scholarship, and dropped out of college to do real estate. I'm not saying people should drop out of college, but again, I took another chance on myself. And what it boiled down to is I was a waitress at a place called Frontier Pies. I don't know if you remember that restaurant. Mm-hmm. I worked at was just off of Redwood in like 5400 South area. Mm-hmm. And I had a guy that just kept coming in, and I could tell he, was wealthy. And when you're a waiter or waitress and you're dropping off food or drinks, you kind of catch some of the conversation that's happening. And he was always talking real estate. Well, I grew up, my parents never owned a home. A lot of my family members never owned a home. And I just thought that was like, not just the American dream, but like the ultimate dream, to have your own house. And I always wanted that. And so I kind of picked his brain, and I was like, hey, I hear that you're always talking about real estate. What do you do in real estate? How can I get there? And he said, well, I coach people in real estate investing, and I charge $10,000. So I went from like here to like, ooh, okay, well, I don't have money to get on the bus tonight if I don't get good tips, so where am I going to come up with 10 grand? So it was pretty disenchanting, I guess is the best way to put it, where I was like, okay, well, maybe I'm never going to become a homeowner. I'm never going to get into real estate. And then I kind of kicked it around in my brain for some time. He came in again months later, we'll say, and I said, hey, I keep thinking about what you said about this real estate stuff. and I don't have 10 grand, but I have time, and time is money. So here's what I'm willing to do. In exchange for you just giving me a little bit of guidance, or if I can even just pick up little crumbs of the pie that you have, I will vacuum the floors at your office. I will make copies. I'll make your coffee. I will go to the dry cleaners. I'll run your errands, whatever you need for free. Just let me be around you. And he took me up on it. And I think I did that for 5 or 6 months until he finally was like, okay, I can see you've proven yourself. You've got work ethic. And that was on top of still carrying my regular jobs. And
Yeah.
he started to show me the ropes on how to get into real estate investing. And I think my first transaction, I only made like 3 grand or something. But to somebody in college that
Yeah.
was in the bus and like didn't have a lot, that was a lot to me. And then the next transaction, I made like 4,000. And so I kind of started focusing more on real estate and not enough on the schoolwork, to the point that I was in jeopardy of losing my scholarship. And so I had to decide, buckle down, get your communications degree, or go do this real estate thing. And I went with the real estate thing. So, and I never looked back.
I love that story. And that's entrepreneurship at its finest. I feel like real estate agents, even though like it's not your own, technically your own business, it is your own business. Like you were completely the brand of who people trust. And yeah, like word of mouth is huge with that, especially. So to have the drive and not even, because again, you don't come from, nobody in your family had done real estate, correct?
Yeah, and we didn't even own a house. Like I say, we just rented. My dad still rents. I've tried to get him into the home ownership, but still rents.
Nice. When something breaks, he wants someone to call for sure.
Exactly.
There's comfort in that. If you need that, you guys go get that. But that's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Especially for his daughter to be in real estate. So
Yeah.
that's adorable. Um, so yeah, so real estate got you funded and got you launched off, and wow, you've done a lot in just 10 years. And I mean, I feel like I'm in the presence of a celebrity that you were involved with the Olympics. That's pretty cool.
Oh, that's nice of you. It was definitely the proudest moment of my life. I got to take the flame from Steve Young, who's a Hall of Fame football player.
Yeah.
So just that, I was like, whoa, this is so cool. And then, being able to run in front of my high school and in front of the where they were doing like man, I'm drawing a blank, Olympic speed skating oval. So, there was people in that crowd. I want to share this moment really quick with you.
Yeah.
When I took the flame, I start running through this crowd of people, and there were people in that crowd that were like bullies, people who bullied me for, being that girl with the special circumstance, or, sometimes I couldn't wash my hair every single day because I was, working 2 jobs, by my senior year, 3 jobs, carrying honors classes and all of that. Sometimes I didn't have the time for that. And so I'd get bullied about it. And those same kids, and even some teachers who didn't think I was really going to amount to anything, were in that crowd, smiling, clapping, and cheering me on. And I had this moment in my mind. It was almost like it was all in slow motion. And I said to myself, you have arrived. You're going to be okay. You've done okay. You're going to live a great life. And it was just kind of my moment of arrival. I have a book that'll be coming out soon called The Throwaway Girl. And that's actually the opening to my book, is when I'm running the torch. It's kind of a flashback thing that I have in the book. And it really is the proudest moment.
I love that. That's I actually watched a video on that, kind of that mindset earlier, that for when you're going through it and you feel like those people are against you, or like those things hurt your feelings. And I'm trying to talk a little bit less about myself. I love to, again, extract and take from my guests, but I kids making fun of kids, especially because of poverty circumstances, is such a real thing. And it is so hard for me to explain to my son now, and be like, kids are jerks. Kids are alphas. Like it's very, it's kind of scientific. I remember thinking back and asking myself, you know, how many friends did my mom keep from high school? Like how many friends did actually stick around? And so that's kind of what got me through that is I knew that only like 2 or 3 people were going to make it out alive with me from this situation. And when you're going through it, you know, you kind of have that chip on your shoulder, and it's you've just got to have that mindset to push through it, that you are enough, that you are you are you, and only broken people break people. So even when, and I feel like kids are on such a learning curve too. You know, we either say things that our parents taught us that, I mean, I remember my stepdad teaching my brothers and I some racist jokes back in the day, and that people really need to, you know, take accountability for that. Sometimes we just don't learn the best habits, and that's okay to unlearn those and whatnot. But anyways, when you're going through it, realize that not everybody has the best habits. And that, yeah, in the end, like if you keep doing the little pieces that matter to you in your life and towards the goal, and you work hard, that you are going to have that I got there moment, that they're going to be like, wow, you have an online store. And you're like, yeah, I got an online store. And like,
Absolutely.
and that's a pretty cool deal, especially like at the Olympics. That was a big thing for Utah. That was huge.
Yeah, it really was. I still have the torch, as a matter of fact, here at my house. And I'll take it with me sometimes when I go give motivational talks, especially for little kids. They'll hold that thing and it's like they're Superman or something.
Yeah.
Once they put it in their hands. There's such a spirit that follows that flame. It's really incredible, because if you think about it, I think about it as the analogy of, we all have some sort of a spark or a flame or something inside, right? So like when I wanted to end my life and I thought I was worthless and I hated who I saw in the mirror, and I thought, well, the person who brought me life, my own mother, doesn't want me. What's the point? That's when you have that little spark that's just barely there.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you just get so passionate about something. Like when I talk about abuse, and you know, it's like a roaring, raging fire inside. And I think what we need to realize as humans is we really need to try to feed each other's flame rather than worry about just our own, you know, and what we can do to help feed each other's flame. And so I kind of use that analogy with the torch is, you know, somebody was passing that flame to me, and now I feel, I don't want to say a responsibility, but I don't know, I just really feel a purpose in sharing that flame now with someone else. So
Yeah. No, I love that a lot. You're doing great things, and you're right where you need to be. You're right in front of the kids that need to hear this. And a lot of the kids that go to, you know, we're talking about public school. That's where you're speaking, correct? Yeah. I mean, kids that are in these situations, and I mean, with your situation, you're with your birth mother. You're not even in a like foster care situation. Like at the time, until you're, you said this all started when you were 13.
yeah.
Oh my gosh. Like for 13 years, you had ish stability, like your mom, a life, and to a child, even if you know, whether you have a great big house or you have a small house, like it doesn't matter. You're playing with pots and pans, you're happy, you're safe. And then I feel like there's a really big switch. And in fact, I don't even feel there's studies on it. When you lose trust in your parents, it rewires you a bit. And that's really, really hard to gain back, and even more so to give back. So I just thank you for doing what you do and putting yourself in front of the kids who need to hear it. Because again, the kids sitting in the audience, some of them are raised by grandma, grandpa, some of them are raised in a comfy kind of situation with their mom. Like there's all sorts of people in the world. And when we're talking, because okay, I don't want to get into any views about abortion. That's a very hot topic on that. But like, let's be honest, when kids go through the system, like we're saving a lot of the children. I think that a big thing with saving kids is education. Whether that's with the parents, like I don't know what we could do as a community to make these issues go away. And I think about it heavy a lot. A bit of my story, and maybe if I tell it more, it'll be better. But the state came and took two of my siblings out of the house for abuse, and then they left three of us in the house because by a lot, like my mom married their dad and whatnot. Like it was a really weird situation, and in the end, nobody got through that home. Like we all ended up leaving at some point, like just kind of like slowly but surely everybody left. Nobody really, one of the five kids graduated high school. So see, it's hard for me. I feel like I should talk about it more. Maybe I should be in that niche more, but that's just a lot to go through. I guess I'm getting a little off track. Let me pause.
No, you're fine. Yeah, I mean, it is hard, you know, especially when siblings are ripped away from each other, you know. I know, for me, so my littlest brother, or not my littlest brother, Travis is my only biological brother, but I don't look at it that way. He has been with my mom somewhere on the East Coast. I think she's in South Carolina now or Florida, but I haven't seen him. I've seen him maybe once in 20 years. And so it's really hard for me. Like that's a whole nother show to talk about the details of that. But was a drug addict. She's been a drug addict my entire life. She did drugs when she was pregnant with the boys, and she has them so brainwashed that if they are out of her sight, or, you know, basically they can't leave home, they don't have driver's license, anything like that, because she's got them in such a like controlled state. And it really bothers me. It really, really bothers me. Like I just fantasize about driving my car across the country and finding where they are and like taking my brother and bringing him back. And it will make my blood boil, right? So hard because we didn't really, there's my cat Sasha, she wants to be on the show too.
Great.
But yeah, it just really breaks my heart to see families and kids being, you know, ripped apart and, you know, being raised in different environments. It's so hard to be a kid anyways, especially in today's world, like you say, with social media. Thank God there was not social media when I was little. I can only imagine the bullying that happens. And, you know, there's kids that are taking their lives because of social media. Like, it's just, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And there's so many points to that. Like, so social media, like right now, I feel like it really exposes everything. And it's so funny because I actually feel a little, how do I say this? I feel like social media is the tool that we made to save mankind. I feel like, which sounds crazy, but we always talk about it. We always talk about that there's something that needs to happen that, you know, that's either going to save the population or something. And we're like, oh, what's going to happen? But the tool is social media, and it's a tool. I had this conversation the other day with a friend. We were talking about the Gizmo watches from Verizon.
Yeah.
And that gives your child texting capabilities and calling capabilities. And I feel like the longer we can keep them off of a platform where they're like looking at photos and comparing themselves and things like that, just from, you know, experts are talking about this, like it's not well for them. So if we all know that, and even more so, social media has given us the resources to find that it's not healthy to start social media so young. I had this conversation in the last video that we did. We now have resources. You know, chat and stuff was available when I was growing up. So, but that wasn't something that we could say with my mom. My mom couldn't talk about how she mentally felt drained by social media or chats or how unsafe it was or anything like that. So now we are officially to the generation where we have their parents that can kind of relate to chat rooms and things like that. And And as it keeps evolving, I'm just shocked that we, again, haven't, that we just don't talk about how to use it better. And just that that's the priority of social media is to have a healthy relationship with it. Like, we're not talking about addiction. We're not talking about all these really dangerous things that go along with it. And it's so sad that the tool that we created that actually has moved our species like so far ahead of the game is not being utilized correctly. And it breaks my freaking heart. And we need people like Tiffany utilizing that, because again, like, this is what it's used for, and it's connecting you with businesses and schools and everything far, beyond what you were capable of doing, before, when it was just newspapers. So you're doing a lot of great things, but oh my gosh, social media, like, it's just, sorry, hot topic. Yeah.
I agree. It can be used for good. There's many great ways. I mean, look, your show, I'm sure you're able to solicit your show to moms out there because of social media that would have not otherwise known about you, so there's some good to that, but then there can also be some bad too. And it's just about education, I think.
When you're getting assistance from the state doesn't even really have, like, or at least, let me back up. That sounds bad. They probably have improved some ways, but I think that they could be more aggressive if you're receiving food stamps or some sort of assistance, some sort of education, like, even if it's entrepreneurship, like, maybe we're not, because I feel like a lot of the times those programs are driving people towards college. But let's talk about real estate. Let's talk about, maybe get influencers in here from the state and whatnot. But yeah, I don't know how to fix the world is my answer to my own question, but it's a broad question, you guys. And I guess that, what I'm trying to do is put these things in front of moms so moms can then educate themselves. Like, you don't choose your boyfriend over your kids or husband. I don't care who, like, you don't. So
Exactly. And the thing of it is, though, is I've forgiven her, and the reason I have, and my sister gets so mad at me for, forgiving her and not holding a grudge and just kind of moving on. And I just know that if we don't forgive, it's like a cancer in our body that we're carrying around with us, and all I can do is forgive and move on with my life, and just obviously not have her in my life. Not that she would want to be anyway. She hasn't tried, but forgiveness is a big part of healing too.
And when you came out about your story, did your did she reach out at all? Do you know if she even knows how big it's become?
I don't think so. And quite honestly, I don't want her to, so like, even in my book, I've changed the names of my parents and my siblings and people involved, because unfortunately, with my mom's drug addiction, if she knew, let's say for an example, I think I told you, I've done very well for myself in real estate and became pretty wealthy at a young age. If she knew I had that, she'd come after me. And she'd come after me because she wants the money, because it's going to feed her habit, so I don't know. That's why I don't really want her to know the success I found and things like that.
Well, and you're not trying to hurt her. It may hurt her just to, I don't know, have some life realizations. But of course, you wrote it to not only, well, I'm assuming you wrote it to help other people heal. I know that they're not alone. And we interviewed Elizabeth Smart back in May, and that's what she said. Like, she didn't write her first book. That was pretty hard for her to relive that and do that. But she did write her second book, and she said it was a big journey and that nobody was making her do it, but it was very healing and empowering for her. So.
Right. It's just another platform, to be able to get the message out there. Just like I have my podcast, or I'm on your show, or, it's just another means of, even if one person benefits from hearing it, and I sell 5 books, that's fine, you know.
Yeah.
The other purpose of that is when the books are sold, I'm going to have a portion of it go back into the nonprofit. So it's just all kind of a win-win situation all the way around. And um, the book's not out yet, and I started writing it at 18 years old, so 20 years ago. And
Wow.
I asked a lot, why is this book not out? Because for 20 years, I've been telling people I'm writing a book, I'm writing a book. And I have people, well, where's this book? Is this thing even real? And a big part of it is I still try to have a relationship with my biological father. Now, he was very physically abusive to me when I was little. So from my earliest memory till about 7, when my parents divorced, he was physically abusive, like broken arms, collarbones, stuff like that. And now that I've tried to nurture the relationship that I have with him, I'm really worried about him reading the book and hurting his feelings. But then again, it's like, well, it's the truth.
Yeah.
You know, I can't be upset or tiptoe around it because I'm worried my dad's feelings might be hurt. It's like, well, this is my story and these are the facts. And, you know, the purpose of the book is not just to like harp on the abuse, but focus on, you know, lighting your flame within and finding the inspiration out of it and things like that. And so what I'm trying to get at is I haven't released this book because I've been so worried about what will my dad think. I'm still living my life waiting for his approval at 38 years old. So I'm not here to tell you this is rainbows and roses. I'm still a work in progress.
Everybody is.
Yes, but I've come to this realization. I just need to put it out. I need to stop sitting on it. I'm a perfectionist. I mean, you can see lines, everything has to have, like, I'm just very,
This looks great. Yeah.
I call it CDO because the letters have to be in order instead of OCD. Okay. Like I'm that like meticulous.
That's great.
And so being a perfectionist has prevented me from releasing it as well. But I'm just like, done is done. Release, do it. You know what I mean?
You're a sweetie. Nothing's wrong with that. That's really, and so I'm assuming you heard the Jan Broberg story,
No,
Abducted in Plain Sight.
no.
Oh my gosh, you didn't. Oh my gosh, there were so many memes going on. I had to hop on Netflix and I was like, what?
Wow, really?
Documentary. So she had survived abuse. This guy had groomed her. And when you watch the documentary, I'm gonna challenge you to go watch it. And
Yeah, I'm
Abducted in Plain Sight.
but one more time.
Abducted in Plain Sight.
Oh, I think I've heard about it, but I have not watched it.
Okay. Yeah. Her story is crazy. And when you go through it, you do blame the parents a bit. Like there's a lot of things in there. But at the end of the day, I don't feel like there's enough talk about how brave these parents are for going on camera and saying we fucked up. Like we messed up bad. They did. They were so vulnerable. It's a very messed up story. But later on, you know, because Jan went through her process and she said, you know, I hated my parents. And once I realized that this is where it stemmed from and this is why I was abducted and this is why I was brainwashed and et cetera, she went to her mom and forgave her because she had to. For herself. And even after that, she said she forgave her and then it took her a little bit and then she had a relationship with her. But actually, I don't know if her mom wrote a book about it first or they like co-wrote it together or something. But anyways, they were joining forces to go through this. And then her abuser comes in court and is suing her for the book.
Wow.
I'm just like,
Wow.
yeah, like just when it's crazy. And I'm ruining it for you. I'm so sorry. I'm like, let's go watch this. Here's what happened, which to be honest, I barely scratched the surface. Like I don't think I could ruin it for you. There's so much in that documentary. But yeah, for her parents to come forward and just say, you know, that they messed up, like what a noble thing to do, especially in support of her. Because yeah, nobody wants their dirty laundry being aired. Nobody wants to say that they were the bad guy at some point, but I think, and I think that's the best part about this show in particular, is that my message is that just grow. Like, I don't care where you're at on your learning curve. Like, no one's experience is going to be your experience. Just grow. Like, if you can get something from here that helps you, that's the whole point of doing this. Because again, I think social media is going to save mankind.
Like it.
Somehow it will. At least in the sense that it's connected us a lot better to, if you choose to use it healthy. You know, a lot of the influencers that I follow, their tips and tricks. Okay, I won't say I'm the best at this, but I'm trying to be better about not sleeping with my phone in the room. Morning routines that don't involve your cell phone, like read books all the time. Be around positive people that have goals that kind of align with your goals, that make you excited to get up in the day. You know, find those people, and if social media is how you need to find them, then find them. And if the bad people are still on your list, unfriend them.
Yes. I think meditation's another key thing. That's something that's really helped me over the last couple of years. I used to think that stuff was so hokey pokey, out there, weird, you know, esoteric, and it's helped me tremendously, you know, because I think I didn't want to hear the thoughts in my head. And I think that's why a lot of people don't meditate, you know, because there's so much going on in there that they don't want to face it, or they just want to tune it out. And it was hard at first to learn how to do it, but it's really been advantageous for me and therapeutic.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. See, again, this is where the success stories come, because I don't think that you could tell these stories and then go to real estate and not have the, you know, the mindset that you do. You have to have things in place to keep those things in check.
Right.
Yeah. You're a badass. All right.
Well,
well, Tiffany, thank you so much for being on my show. And is your hair purple? Like,
it is. Yes.
So cute.
Purple. And my eyelashes are usually purple, but I just took the purple out of my eyelashes. So
it is spooky season. What are you thinking?
So, well, here's the thing. Realtors are a dime a dozen, but you're always going to remember the girl with purple hair.
Yeah. Yeah. I've some lady had a necklace. She had the craziest necklace with just one little saying. And I remembered it for the rest of my life. And I was like, you are on top of your brand. You're smart.
That's great.
Yeah. So let me plug in your stuff. So I know you shared the name of the nonprofit. Where do we find you on your social medias?
So social media, you can look me up under Miss, so MISS, Tiffany Barnes. Let's see, where else? Let's see, my Instagram. What is my Instagram? My Instagram is @LadyAirbnb, because I show people how to set up Airbnbs. Ooh. My nonprofit website is sharethemovement.org.
Sharethemovement.org. Okay, cool. And we will have all this linked and everything below. Tiffany, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your story.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And for taking the time to have me on and allowing me to have this platform to share my story and my message. It means a lot.
Yeah, of course. Oh, wait, can I bug you for something? This is such a personal favor.
Sure.
Can I see the torch?
Yes. I'm going to have to go downstairs and get it.
We'll wait.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. This is going to be so cool. I'm so excited. Her decorations are on point over there.
Okay. Here it is.
Oh, that is the most majestic thing I've ever seen.
Still has like the soot from the flame on it. It's pretty cool, right?
Because it's a real flame. Yeah, nice.
So this is the actual one. I was runner 133.
Wait, can I see the little, yep, there it is. Yeah, that was a big deal for us, you guys. I don't know if we have some listeners that aren't in Utah anymore. So yeah, that was a big Utah thing. We're cool. Our snow is cool.
Yeah, and we might get the Olympics back for, I think, 2030. So 10 years.
Ooh, that would be really neat to experience. Because I remember that was, Oh, well, 2002. Yeah, I moved here in 2004. So I was trying to think of like if I lived here, but I just didn't go because my grandma, her car, like everything about her life that year was the Olympics. And there's still a lot of people driving around with all that stuff on it. Like it's still a huge deal.
I have an Olympic plate.
Nice.
I'll have the Olympic plate, and I see very few of them. So,
But you're like the VIP. You've got a torch.
well, this is normally on a stand. I have like a little stand that says the day I ran. And see right here, it says light the fire within. I don't know.
Beautiful.
Well, it's kind of hard to see. But
I mean, I could see that it's carved. Yeah.
yeah, so pretty cool. I'm proud of it.
Awesome. I'm proud of you. You're great. Thanks for letting me see the torch. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Okay, cool. Well, you guys, like I said, I'm going to link all of her stuff below. Tiffany, thank you so much for being on the show. And you guys find your tribe, keep growing, keep doing you, and be happy.
Yes.
Okay, goodbye, you guys.
Bye.